Welcome to episode 93 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by a 17-loss guy. It's February 1st, 1937. We're in Buenos Aires on a humid summer night under floodlights at the Estadio Gasómetro. There are around 80,000 people packed into the wooden stands, and what they're about to watch is not a final in the modern sense, because this tournament isn't called the Copa yet. It's the South American Championship, a round-robin competition, points on the table, no planned showpiece. But Argentina and Brazil finish level, so the rules of the time create something raw and improvised, a playoff, a single match to decide a continent. And this one ends so late that Buenos Aires is technically in the next day before it's finished. Some people later call it the game of shame. Others call it the birth certificate of the Argentina-Brazil rivalry. Tonight, the point is simpler. This is the night football becomes a proxy for two national egos and never stops being one. But how did we get here? To understand why this match matters, you have to set the two countries side by side in 1937, not in hindsight. Argentina's football has already been stress tested on the biggest stages. They've built a deep club culture early, centered on Buenos Aires, with packed grounds, fierce neighborhood identities, and a sense that football is not entertainment, it's belonging. The national team has already played, and lost, two of the defining finals of the era. The Olympic final in 1928 and the first World Cup final in 1930, both times against Uruguay. And their continental record is already heavyweight. By the mid-1930s, Argentina have accumulated more South American titles than Brazil. Brazil's story is different. The talent is unmistakable, but the structure is still fragmented. Regional leagues, state power, selection disputes, and a national team that doesn't yet feel like a single machine. Brazil have won South America, twice, but they're inconsistent in how they show up and who they bring. And then there's the bridge between them, the Roca Cup, a bilateral trophy that turns friendly matches into prestige tests long before global tournaments start defining identity. Still, in 1937, the great South American rivalry isn't Argentina versus Brazil, it's Argentina versus Uruguay, across the Rio de la Plata, across Olympic finals, across the first World Cup final, across two football cultures that feel like cousins who just can't share a room. Brazil are the rising third power. Argentina are already a power. So when Argentina and Brazil tie at the top of a championship table, it doesn't feel like the inevitable clash of the two giants. It feels like something new, hardening into place. The 1937 championship is hosted in Buenos Aires and is played in summer heat, so matches are staged at night, when possible, under floodlights. Argentina arrive as favorites, but the tournament is not clean. It's chaotic. Goals everywhere. Tempers everywhere. Argentina and Brazil both win 4 games out of 5. Argentina's only loss comes in that other universe, the one where Uruguay always feels different, always feels personal. Brazil, meanwhile, come to the tournament without two of their most famous names, including the defender Domingos da Guia and forward Leonidas da Silva. And then comes January 30. Argentina versus Brazil in the round-robin match. Argentina win 1-0. It should settle things. But the table doesn't care about should. Both teams end up tied on points. So 48 hours later, they go at it again. Same city, same ground, same pressure, but now with a trophy on the line and nowhere to hide. From the opening minutes, it's not a football match. It's a collision. Hard tackles, shoves, complaints, the sense that every 50-50 is also a referendum. And then, in the first half, the match breaks. A Brazilian defender, Domingos Spitaletti, makes a violent challenge on Francisco Varallo. The response is instant. Players converge. Punches, kicks, a riot that pulls in everyone, even substitutes. The crowd surges. The teams run for the tunnel. The referee can't restore order. So the match is stopped for a long time, 40 minutes by some accounts, with police surrounding the pitch. Eventually, the match restarts. And then almost immediately, it breaks again. Another foul, another retaliation, another fight. And the first half ends in fragments, not in flow. By now, the match has the texture of a street argument that keeps reigniting. Argentina make changes, Brazil make changes, but the score stays locked at 0-0. And then you reach the strangest part. For all the violence, for all the noise, the title still requires football. And at the end of 90 minutes, it's still 0-0. So the rules demand extra time. And that's when a teenager becomes a hinge in history. Argentina sent on a 19-year-old forward from Independiente, Vicente de la Mata. He scores, and then quickly he scores again. 2 goals in extra time, close together, like the match suddenly remembers what it was supposed to be. Argentina win 2-0. They take the championship. The crowd erupts. Not just celebration, but release. Because this match has lasted so long and stopped so often that it feels like the city has been held hostage by a football scoreline. It ends close to 2 in the morning. And in the aftermath, something else becomes clear. This wasn't just a title decider. It was a line crossed. From here, the Argentina-Brazil rivalry runs on 2 parallel tracks. One is the cold spreadsheet of trophies and finals. The other is the emotional undertone, the feeling that whenever these two meet, something extra is in the room. Track 1, the scoreboard of history. If you look at the long arc, the rivalry becomes a debate about global status. Brazil becomes the sport's most successful World Cup nation. Argentina becomes the sport's most emotionally intense football country, and eventually a 3-time world champion themselves. And here's a stat that captures the scale. Excluding 1950, which was a year of round robin, there have been 21 World Cup finals. Argentina and Brazil have appeared in 12 of them, 6 each, which is absurd domination spread across a century. And yet, for all that shared gravity, the ultimate match still hasn't happened. They have never met in a World Cup final. Football keeps arranging their rivalry in qualifiers, in copas, in friendlies. Well, they aren't really friendly, but never in the one place where rivalry becomes permanent in the official record. Maybe that changes in 2026. Maybe it doesn't. But the fact it hasn't happened is part of the tension. Track 2, the undertone, violence, identity, and style. The 1938 playoff sets the tone, and future matches keep reinforcing it. In 1939, the Roca Cup becomes a miniature saga. 4 matches, extra games, protests, and at one point Argentina abandons the pitch after a penalty decision, allowing Brazil to score into an empty goal. In 1945, another Roca Cup match turns brutal, with Ademir fracturing an Argentine player's leg. And then comes 1946, one of the darkest chapters. In the decisive match of the South American Championship, Jair fractures the leg of Argentina's captain José Salomón. A brawl erupts, mounted police enter, hundreds invade the pitch, and the teams retreat to dressing rooms. The match eventually continues. Argentina win, but Salomón's career is effectively ended. So by the time you arrive in the 1950s, the rivalry already has scar tissue. Then in July 1957, a Copa Roca match at the Maracanã, Brazil are trailing, and a 16-year-old comes on for his debut, and within minutes, he scores. That's Pelé. He enters the rivalry the way myths enter stories, suddenly, and with a goal. Argentina win that night, but the point isn't the result. The point is that Brazil's future face of football gets his first international goal against the one opponent who makes everything feel personal. Fast forward. Brazil win 3 World Cups before Argentina win its first. And that creates a psychological shadow, not because Argentina lacked greatness, but because Brazil became the sport's global reference point. Argentina's answer arrives in 1978 at home under Cesar Luis Menotti, a first star, a rebalancing, a statement that Argentina are not Brazil's intense cousin, they are an empire too. And then 1982 arrives, Spain, the World Cup, and a match where frustration becomes violence again. Argentina lose to Brazil, and Diego Maradona is sent off after kicking João Batista. It is not the most important football moment of his career, but it's one of the purest rivalry moments, when Argentina versus Brazil stops being tactics and becomes temperament. In modern times, the rivalry gets rebranded and marketed, the Superclásico de las Américas, trophy names, and sponsor gloss. But the core doesn't change. In 2021, Argentina beat Brazil 1-0 in the Copa America final, with a goal that gives Lionel Messi his first senior international trophy. And the old language returns instantly. Accusations of time wasting, of cynicism, of anti-football. Even when it's a final, even when it's history, the match is still interpreted as morality. Then comes the most surreal chapter of all, September 2021, a World Cup qualifier, 5 minutes played, and health officials enter the pitch, trying to remove players over COVID-19 protocol disputes. The rivalry stops being football. It becomes bureaucracy in boots. And then 2023 delivers a new first. Argentina beat Brazil 1-0 in Rio again, this time in World Cup qualifying. The goal scored by Nicolas Otamendi, and it becomes Brazil's first ever home defeat in World Cup qualification history. Different era, same undertone. Same feeling that whenever these two meet, the match is about more than the match. So what should we take away from February 1st, 1937? As always, 3 points. First, rivalries don't begin when the marketing department says they begin. They begin when a match becomes uncontrollable, when a game turns into a social event with risk attached. 1937 wasn't just a playoff, it was a warning label. Second, Argentina versus Brazil is not only a contest of talent, it's a contest of identity. Brazil's football sells beauty to the world. Argentina's football sells intensity to itself. Each side believes the other is cheating the definition of true football, and the tension is exactly why this rivalry never cools. And third, the rivalry endures because it's never fully resolved. They've traded continental titles, World Cups, icons and eras. They have dominated the sport's biggest stages, but they still haven't met in the one match that could freeze the rivalry into a single definitive outcome, a World Cup final. Maybe football is saving it, or maybe football is refusing to give it to us. On this day in 1937, Argentina beat Brazil 2-0 after extra time to win the South American Championship, and in the process, a rivalry stopped being occasional and became permanent. That's all for episode 93 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history. If you have a correction, a memory, or a great Argentina-Brazil story I should include, email me at otd@17lawsguy.com. Tomorrow, in episode 94, Corinthians, Deportes Tolima, the Copa Libertadores, and how a shocking elimination helped trigger the retirement of Ronaldo. Stay tuned.